First, though, we kick it off now this half an hour with the intense international manhunt underway. German authorities are searching for the suspect in the Christmas market attack in Berlin, while President-elect Donald Trump uses the tragedy to argue for a Muslim registry. Watch.
You know my plans all along, and I've been proven to be right. 100% correct. What's happening is disgraceful. It's an attack on humanity, and it's got to be stopped.
Want to bring in Ambassador John Bolton on this, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and a Fox News contributor. Ambassador Bolton, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Does this attack bolster the support for a Muslim registry in the United States? What's your take on this idea?
Well, I think what Trump said during the campaign was that he wanted to focus particularly on applications for asylum from people coming with countries with high terrorist activity, which strikes me as perfectly sensible. If somebody says they're coming from Syria, you're entitled to vet them more extensively than somebody coming from Iceland. I just think that's realistic. I think this tragedy in Germany actually underlines a range of ways that in Europe, particularly, their ability to control this flood of asylum seekers has completely broken down. And I think there are lessons here for us that go beyond just how you screen people to let them in and who you let in the first place.
Steve Hilton?
Ambassador, do you think that there's any leverage that the new administration could deploy with European governments to get them to act more decisively on this? Because my experience is that when I was working with David Cameron in the UK, I think he had a very strong and tough position, but was constantly frustrated by the lack of resolve in the rest of Europe, and particularly as we saw with Germany opening its doors to refugees. What can Trump do to put pressure on them to handle this better?
Well, I think this is a clear example, one of many, sadly, where little American leadership could go a long way. I mean, the European governments over and over again act like they're completely defenseless. Let's take the example of the individual accused of this attack in Berlin. He apparently says he's Tunisian. God knows whether he is or not. The Germans checked with Tunisia. Tunisia says, not one of ours. So the German authorities let him roam free. The answer is you put him in jail. And he holds the key to the jail cell in his pocket. All he has to do is say honestly what country he's from, and then you deport him to that country. So, look, there are a lot of things that are out of control in Europe, but I don't think they've seen any leadership from the United States on this subject in the past 8 years. And so if there's a change there, I think there'll be a change in Europe.
Ambassador Bolton, this is Kat Timpf. A lot of the issues, particularly here, that have happened are people who have already been here, not people who are refugees and coming over here. There haven't been refugees that have been responsible for things, at least in the United States, yet. I mean, what would Trump want to do about that, and how, taking into account religious freedom, of course, as being important in this country also?
Well, I don't know exactly what his plans are here, but let's be clear. The First Amendment does not protect conspiracy to murder people. You can say
but if you talk about, excuse me, if you talk about people registering based on their religion and making their life more difficult.
I'm not talking about registering. I'm not talking about registering based on religion. I'm talking about having the kind of vigorous investigative programs that New York City used to have under its prior mayor, that other state and local governments have, that can be used to protect against efforts to engage in terrorist activities. As I say, you cannot use freedom of religion as a shield to commit terrorist acts any more than you can use freedom of religion as a shield to commit bank robbery.
I don't think anybody would say that's the case, except
I think they do. I think they do.
I think the key word here is not just immigration. As you mentioned, it's not all about people coming in. It's also integration. It's about people here in America feeling part of something bigger than just their own religion or their own culture. Now, in Europe, again, that's been handled so badly.
Yeah.
Where you've had this doctrine of multiculturalism that is completely agnostic about people not speaking the language of the country, not buying into the values of the country, and going down their own path.
But there's no way that changes, right, Ambassador? Because they've got open borders. That's what the euro is about.